Good morning, fellow Ghanaians. So, fellow Ghanaians, after every election cycle, especially when parties change, the same old horror show plays out over and again. The faces may have changed, the titles sometimes differ, but the painful truth is always familiar. So yesterday, the Attorney General, as part of government's Operation Recover All Loot, oral, they went into overdrive, revealing one scandal after another, one jaw-dropping revelation after the next. Billions of Ghana cedis, money meant to feed children, build hospitals, repair roads, support farmers, and lift this country out of poverty, again and again have allegedly been siphoned into private pockets. The AG's office has confirmed what many of us long suspected, but perhaps could not imagine in such a scale. The latest revelations from the AG and his team suggest that the former CEO of the National Food Buffer Stock Company allegedly acquired multi-million-dollar properties and estates through alleged questionable means, even as the institution struggled to pay suppliers and left school-feeding caterers in tears. Another case, the ghost name scandal at the National Service Authority, involved an alleged 2.2 billion cedis. That is lost to the state that has simply been caused through fraudulent payroll manipulations. Again, alleged. 2.2 billion cedis. That is the money that could have built dozens of schools, upgraded hospitals, or even provided water to the communities that are still drinking from mud-colored streams. And yet, as is always the case in this country, we find out too late. Not because our anti-corruption institutions are incompetent on paper, but because they've become reactionary and they wake up only when the political winds have shifted. Why, fellow Ghanaians, must it always take a change of government or a political transition or some investigative journalist to uncover these crimes? Why do EOCO, the Financial Intelligence Center, the OSP, the Police CID, and all of these other alphabet soup of agencies that have been charged with protecting the public purse, why have they all seemed unable to detect these things in real time, as and when they are happening? Why must we always find out after the looting is complete and the perpetrators have retired into the comfort of their mansions bought with our stolen money? If our anti-corruption architecture worked, none of these revelations will be news to us. There will be arrests. The buffer stock case is particularly painful because of what the company represents. It was created to stabilize food prices, to ensure farmers are paid on time, and keep food in stock when national emergencies strike. But what we have seen in that institution is one that has turned into a feeding trough for greed, an institution that owes poor farmers many months in arrears, sometimes years, while its top officers allegedly build estates, buy properties, and live in opulence. It is obscene that the same people whose job it was to feed this nation have been allegedly feeding on the nation. And it's not just the Buffer Stock Company Limited. The pattern repeats itself across ministries, government agencies, and departments. Every administration exposes the rot of the one before it. Then the cycle continues. EOCO investigates when it sues them. The OSP issues statements that sometimes end in theatrics in court. The Financial Intelligence Center, which is supposedly to track suspicious transactions, suddenly becomes deaf, dumb, and blind whenever these politically exposed persons are moving millions in cash through the real estate market. That is where much of the stolen money is going, into houses, apartments, and lands. Our real estate sector has quietly become one of the most efficient money laundering schemes. In this country, the Real Estate Agency Act of 2020, Act 1047, could not have been any clearer. It forbids cash payment for property transactions, insisting instead on traceable instruments like bank drafts, checks, electronic transfers. But in this country, the law has become like a suggestion. People are now walking into real estate offices with duffel bags of cash, millions of cedis and dollars to buy homes. They get no questions. Nobody's reporting, nobody's verifying. nobody cares. And the next day, those same officials then show up in church or in the mosque to give thanksgiving. They build churches, they build mosques, and lecture the poor and the hardworking people on integrity. The question we must all ask and where we must be paying attention to is really simple. If we can extradite internet fraudsters and small-time scammers, and people who are stealing goods here and there, and these scammers, sometimes we ship them off to the United States within weeks, why can we not arrest and prosecute our own elite thieves right here at home in real time? Why are institutions terrified of the powerful but fearless when it comes to the powerless? There is an undeniable truth in all of this, fellow Ghanaians. The truth that Ghanaians whisper daily but rarely say that aloud. Our anti-corruption agencies are not neutral. They've become political tools used more often to harass opponents than to protect the public purse, than to protect the people. When the opposition is in government, the same story repeats. The same agencies now all of a sudden becomes angel of truth and accountability. When their own are in office, they go mute. This is why corruption is thriving. And it's not because we do not know how to catch them. It is because we don't want to catch it. When politicians steal from the state, they are not stealing from some faceless entity. They are stealing from the people. They are stealing from the woman who sells at Kanishi. They are stealing from the teacher whose salary has been delayed and from the farmer whose maize rot because there's no storage. From the patient that is dying in the hospital without medicine. They are stealing from you, they are stealing from I. And for every city that has been stolen, the city, or the state actually, has to borrow more. The city weakens, prices rise, and the same people who cause all of this just turn around and pretend to fix it. Then sometimes they tend to put the blame on so-called external forces. Fellow Ghanaians, it is about time we stop treating corruption as some political theater, as some political talking point, and begin treating it as the national emergency that it is. The Attorney General's recent efforts under oral must be supported. Yes, we must remind ourselves that everyone accused is presumed innocent until he's proven guilty. But that presumption must not become a shield. It must not become one for impunity. We need to get the cases investigated thoroughly, prosecuted diligently, and judged transparently. And where there is guilt, let every pesewa be recovered. Every property that has been bought with stolen public funds has to be confiscated. And every accomplice, people who support for these crimes to be committed, must be punished. Again, we must get to the point where we change the legal and moral scope of all of this that is going on. The incentives that make corruption so rewarding. Why is it that stealing public funds has become such an enterprise that people cannot even get it? It has become such a low risk and high rewarding enterprise in this country. A poor man steals a goat, he gets 25 years in Insawam. But a public officer steals even much more, billions and millions, and then he can negotiate a plea deal, refund part of the money, a fraction of it, and then they go home smiling. That is not justice, fellow Ghanaians. That is mockery of the rule of law. The law must treat economic crimes against the people with the same severity and the same gravity as violent crimes. Because really, what is more violent than a politician destroying the future of an entire generation so that he and his family can live large? Fellow Ghanaians, the road goes deep, but it can be fixed. It begins with certain soul searching. It begins with institutions doing their jobs without fear or favor. The OSP must stop chasing headlines and start chasing convictions. EOCO must remember it was not created to protect the powerful. It was protected to hold them to account. The Financial and Intelligence Center must follow the money, not the politicians all over the place. It must get to the point where politics does not become an avenue for so many people to steal. And the Ghana Police Service, the CID, they must learn that the power that we've given them, they must be able to use it with that loyalty that is greater and in terms of fixed to the law. So, fellow Ghanaians, we must get to the point, and with all these revelations coming on from the Ages Department, we must begin to look at all of us. We seem to glorify thieves when they wear our party colors. We don't judge them. We elect looters because they give us t-shirts and fuel money. We attend the housewarmings of those who plundered our schools and our hospitals. We call them honorable. Really, they are not. What is honorable about stealing from the state? And then we bow from them. How then do we expect corruption to end when we worship money? We worship the people who got all these through ill means. The anti-corruption fights, fellow Ghanaians, I submit, will not be won by these agencies alone. It will be won by all of us dedicating and citizens who refuse to excuse wrongdoing when their side is caught in the hands of the law. It will be won when every Ghanaian citizen decides that corruption is not what we want to follow. So, fellow Ghanaians, our country cannot move forward if every regime must first go into the books of those who've just left and then spend its first year uncovering the corruption of those that have just left power. That is not progress. That is stagnation. And that is not how you win the fight against corruption. We must break that cycle. Fellow Ghanaians, we have to support the Attorney General in this fight. Let the guilty face justice. And the innocent, they have to clear their names in court, not true statements. Because when the AG comes out and talks about all these corrupt deals, and all you do is release a statement that says, I didn't do this, no one is willing to listen. We must demand that the billions that have been allegedly stolen are recovered. We can use it for so much. And the law permits cash-based laundering. In all of these real estate sector, we must enforce the law with zero tolerance. Let us remember that integrity is not just a slogan. It is a discipline. So, fellow Ghanaians, for far too long, integrity and the corrupt have become such a bedfellows. The corrupt have lived like kings, while the poor, the honest, live like fools. That must end. If this cycle does not end, then there is no incentive for people not to be corrupt. If this government, again, is serious about oral, then it must understand and address these issues. That is how you get to deal with this corrupt menace. Because what is worse than illegal mining is corruption. When politicians come into office and all they do is to loot and loot and loot. The recovery, I submit, must be aggressive. The prosecutions must go all out, find the necessary evidence, and you must be relentless. You must win. Because when the punishments are not severe, the people will not see the work you are doing. So, fellow Ghanaians, this morning, our message is clear and simple. Oral must work. Those who have been accused of stealing public resources must return them. Not only must they return this money, they must go to jail. They must serve time for the deterrent to be shown. For those in power today, we know of the cycle. The FIC, EOCO, OSP, perhaps they will not come after you. No government probably go after their own. It happens once in a while. You can steal all you want, but accountability will come. So you need to look at the press conference the AG did and the expose that has come out. Your party will leave office at some point, and when they do leave office, it will be time for accountability. And will come after you also. Good morning, fellow Ghanaians.